What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for another review of 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, Season 5, Episode 13, There's No Fear in Love. So let's get into it real quick with Ella and Johnny. They didn't get a lot of camera time in this episode, so let's go ahead and take care of them first. So they had talked previously about meeting up in Dubai. Johnny is deathly afraid of catching COVID, plus the COVID restrictions in China are very, very strict, probably one of the strictest in the world. And so he doesn't want to come to the United States because he thinks that, we don't really care about COVID over here and we're not really taking any precautions against COVID. So he doesn't want to come to the United States because he's worried about going back to China, possibly catching COVID, losing his job, so on and so forth. So he and Ella had discussed possibly meeting in Dubai. He's able to travel to Dubai, and Ella is also able to travel to Dubai, but he's still feeling kind of iffy about the whole COVID thing. Now, his reasoning is that it wouldn't make any sense for him to quarantine for 14 or 28 days if the actual vacation or for the actual trip in Dubai is going to be a lot less than that. So to him, it really wasn't worth the quarantine time to go travel at this point. So, but he told her, he promised her that he was going to think about it. So she gave him a few days. She left him alone for a few days. And so now she's FaceTiming him and she wants to know, what is your final verdict on whether or not we can meet in Dubai? And this man tells her no. He says he's not going to go to Dubai. He said that it's way too risky for him to go to Dubai. And so he's like, but I promise you that I will see you in February. Well, February, at the time that they're recording this, is 7 months off. So Ella's like, are you kidding me? I have to wait another 7 months to meet you? So she says that she needs physical attention. I guess, her love language is touch. So she says, I really need some physical attention. And, you're not really delivering that for me. So she basically tells them that she has a confession. She says that she was feeling very, very lonely. And so she had called a friend over to comfort her, to support her, someone to talk to, even though she's got, at least two really good female friends that we know of because we've seen them on the show. She decides to call her male friend to come and comfort her. And if she needed a male perspective, why didn't she just call her male friend on the phone? So I think that she planned on doing the do with her male friend. I think she planned that from the start. It wasn't just, and then, one thing led to another kind of thing, or things just happened kind of thing, or I just kind of fell and stumbled on it. No, I think that she had intended for her and this male friend of hers to have a little afternoon delight. So she tells him that, she was feeling lonely, and because, Johnny himself is not delivering what she needs, she called her male friend over just for some platonic conversation. But then one thing led to another, according to her, and they ended up getting intimate. And when she told him that, the look on his face to me was just hilarious. He was like, he was like so shocked and so surprised. And so she said that she didn't mean for it to happen. It just kind of just happened. And I wonder if she would have been as understanding if Johnny was telling her that he was doing that in China. But anyways, I digress. So she says that a lot of her self-worth, she tells us this in her confessional, that a lot of her self-worth is tied to male physical attention. She doesn't feel worthy, or she doesn't feel good about herself when there isn't a male giving her physical attention. So she knew, I feel like she knew, I was, like I said before, what was going to happen when this guy arrived. I think it was all planned out, but whatever. So Johnny said that he's not mad. He says, I'm not mad at you. He says, I understand that our relationship is very complicated. She starts to cry, and he says that, I've been having you wait for me for so long. I keep having you waiting and waiting and waiting. So I understand where you're coming from. She starts crying really hard, and he tries to comfort her, and he tells her, well, just give me your ring size and I'll buy you a beautiful diamond ring, to make you feel better. And I realized that she never gave him the ring size. And I'm like, girl, do not forget to give him the ring size because he's willing to buy you a diamond ring. But she never gave him the ring size. Well, if she did, it wasn't on the show. It wasn't what we saw. She never gave him the ring size, and he never brought up the ring again. So I'm like, I hope that, later on she calls him or texts him or something and be like, yeah, I'm a ring size 7.5, by the way. So He says that, he promises that they're going to meet up, that he will definitely see her in February, more promises, more promises. And Ella tells us that she felt really hurt by how much she hurt him. She said that, he really didn't show his pain, but she could tell that he was in a lot of pain. And, she felt really bad for bringing this pain upon him. I'm just going to have to take her word for it because he said that he was okay with it. He said that he understood why she did what she did. I didn't see him crying, so I don't understand what pain she saw in him, but I'm going to take her word. She knows her man better than I do. So we'll go ahead and go with it that Johnny was just as hurt as she was, if not more. So we'll see if they're ever going to meet up. That's Ella and Johnny. Moving on to Memphis and Hamza. So we'll start off with Memphis, Hamza, and Hamza's mom having breakfast. And Memphis says in her confessional that she will be getting married in just 2 days. I don't know exactly how long she's been there, but she's been there for quite a few days. And now she's going to try to hurry up and try to tie up some loose ends. For example, she still has to get a dress and she still needs to talk to her attorney about the prenup. And I'm like, girl, you've been here for quite a few days. I don't know why you're waiting until 2 days before your wedding date to try to take care of your prenuptial agreement, but we'll get to that later. So they're having breakfast, and then the mom tells Memphis that she wants to have a meeting with her one-on-one with a translator. So she's okay with that. So Memphis and Hamza's mom, they have their meeting with the same translator that she used with Hamza. So the mom says that she's really worried that that Memphis's ex-husband will cause problems for Hamza because she doesn't know how the ex-husband will feel about a stranger raising his daughter or son. And I was like, daughter or son, do they not know the genders of Memphis's children? Because she only has two. So how do they not know, like, does she have a son or a daughter? And like, why is that, how has that not been discussed yet? So the ex-husband, Memphis tells the mother that the ex-husband is, really okay with Memphis moving on with someone else, having another relationship, and he just wants Hamza to be really good to his children. So the mom says, the mom asks about her background, her childhood, her upbringing. And she tells the mother that she had a very traumatic childhood. There are times when she was homeless. She talks about being in the foster care system. And so the mom asks, well, that trauma that she suffered in the past, will it affect how she treats Hamza? Because sometimes she expresses a lot of anger towards Hamza. So then Memphis kind of got real attitudey, and she says something like, I thought her response was a little bit extreme. She tells the mom that her hardship, I don't know how she started off by saying, but it was something kind of like, I don't know what you've been told, or I don't know where you're coming from with all this, but the trauma that I suffered as a child, it just made me into a stronger person, and it just made me want to work harder, and I accomplished all that I've accomplished completely on my own. I didn't have the same kind of support that Hamza has, from his family. I was all alone, and I did this all by myself, and I went from nothing to where I'm at now. And she just came really, really forceful with it. And so the mom was like, okay, girl, I got you. And then Memphis promises that she's not bringing Hamza to the U.S. just for him to get hurt. That she does care for him. She does love him. And they both have the same goal in common. They want Hamza to be happy, to be safe, whatever. So because they come to this understanding, thank God, because Memphis was really going left, because they came to this understanding, they give each other a hug. And the mom says, which I thought was really, really sweet, she says that she sees Memphis the way she sees her own daughter. So she sees Memphis as her own daughter. And I thought that was just the sweetest thing. So then they go dress shopping with Hamza's mom and his sister. She FaceTimes her mom, so her mom could also be a part of the experience. So she tries on a few different outfits. She finally feels like, there's one that she really likes. And the mom feels like that Memphis is really taking an interest in the Tunisian culture. And the mother can really appreciate that. And I don't know what she meant by that. I mean, obviously, Memphis doesn't have an issue with the culture. So I don't know if she specifically meant because Memphis was willing to try on or buy a traditional dress for her wedding or what. So then it comes time for Memphis to speak with her attorney about the prenup. Now keep in mind, she's getting married in about 2 days. And now she decides to call her attorney to talk about the prenup, like a serious legal matter that needs legal documents, and things have to be signed, and things have to be reviewed, and things have to be filed. So it's not just like, okay, let me go ahead and email you this paper and you go ahead and sign it and email it back to me. It's not that easy. So she FaceTimes her attorney, and she tells the attorney that she plans to get married in a couple of days. And the attorney tells her straight up, it's not enough time, because Hamza has to be given the opportunity to understand exactly what it is that he's going to be signing. He needs to read it. He needs to understand it. And he also has the right to consult with his own attorney to see if this in any way is in his own best interest, and possibly the best interest of any future children they may have. So the attorney suggests, which I thought was a fantastic idea, this attorney suggests to postpone the wedding, or the second best choice, if you can't postpone the wedding, the second best choice is going to be a post-nuptial agreement, which is not as airtight and it's not as secure as a prenuptial agreement, but it's better than nothing kind of thing. So she starts crying. She says she's feeling, all kinds of confused, and she's scared because she doesn't know if she's going to be able to protect her children by getting a prenup. Girl, you got on Hamza's case about being disorganized and waiting until the last minute when y'all were trying to go into tennis to do to fill out the paperwork for the marriage. You got upset about him for that, but here you are, completely disorganized, completely delayed. And it's like, okay, why would you get on his case when you don't even have your own stuff together? This should have been taken care of a long time ago. Instead of you worrying and fretting about, oh my God, I got to tell Hamza about me spending the night with my ex-husband. Instead of wasting all that time, girl, you could have been talking to an attorney that whole entire time. The attorney could have been drawing up documents. Hamza could have been looking for his own attorney. But girl, you wanted to waste time on some nonsense. And now here you are at the very last minute trying to get this together. And you know damn well that you can't. So she comes home, or she comes back to Hamza's apartment, and she just starts packing stuff up. And Hamza's looking at her like, what the hell are you doing? Where are you going? And she's like, I got to go to a hotel. And she really doesn't explain to him why she needs to leave at that moment. She's just like, I just got to go. I got to go. She should have told him, communicate and let him know, hey, I went to the attorney. I can't get done what I want done. There's a lot going on in my head right now. So I just need time alone. Just give me, a day. I will be back. Don't worry. I just need time to think. But it's like she just threw a whole bunch of stuff in her suitcase and she was out of there. So Memphis says that she needs time to be alone, and Hamza looks completely stressed out. He looks so stressed out because he doesn't understand what's going on, and it's like she's not taking the time to communicate with him. So good luck on that. Moving on to Ben and Mahogany. So Mahogany has issues with Ben's personal life and the fact that he won't take any accountability for any wrongdoing that he did in his past failed relationships. I have no idea why this is a big deal to this woman, because in all honesty, when you're dating someone and you ask them, okay, why didn't your previous relationship work out? Most of the time, people are going to blame the other party because they want to give you a good impression of themselves. So they're not going to say, I was cheating, I was, a drug addict, or I had no money, I was broke, and didn't nobody want to be with a broke person. No one is going to talk about whatever they did to destroy a relationship, or what their part was in a relationship failing, because they want the new person to only see the best side of them. You'll find out soon enough, Mahogany. Trust me, you will find out soon enough. But I don't understand why she's like taking that to heart, like it's so important to her. Because he should have turned the tables around and said, well, why did your past relationships fail? And see what she says. So Ben sent her, after they had ended their evening and they went to their separate rooms, Ben was texting her, and he was finally explaining to her through text the reasons why his relationships failed and what part he played in his relationships failing. And he said it was like 10 pages of text messages. And I'm just like, how can you do that? Like, how can you text? I couldn't do it unless he was doing the whole text to speak or speak to text feature. I cannot be up there texting 10 pages worth of words to anyone for any reason. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call. I'm going to be like, hey, can we talk? But really, Ben, you should have been explaining this to her when she was asking it. If you're willing to tell her and you end up telling her anyway, why didn't you just tell her at the dinner when she first asked you? Anyway, so he's texting her the whole life story and she's not responding. She said to us that she would rather talk to him about it in the morning. Why she didn't tell him that blows my mind. I have no idea. The lack of communication with these people on this show is mind blowing. So she doesn't text him, she doesn't respond, and he feels so hurt by that. So the next morning, she gets up and she thinks she's going to go meet him for breakfast at the hotel, at the little cafe at the hotel that they're staying at. So she goes up the steps and surprise, surprise, it's not Ben waiting for her, but her parents. So her parents have surprised her with a visit. And I thought that was kind of weird. So her parents surprised her with a visit, and they showed up because they were kind of worried because, she just met this old man on social media, and, they have their same issues. Like, we don't know what his intentions are with our daughter. So that's why they really showed up. They want to act like, oh, we're just here to surprise you. But no, they're just basically making sure that she's still alive. So Mahogany tries to convince her parents that she's, of legal age. She can take care of herself. She doesn't need her parents to babysit her. And, they don't need to worry. The parents ask, how is she feeling about Ben? Mahogany says that she does like the fact that he puts God first and that he's always talking about God. So she does appreciate that. Mahogany also tells her parents that when they talked about his past relationships, he didn't mention to her what he did to contribute to his relationships failing. And that was a big issue for her. So then the parents are like, okay, where is, Ben Hameen? Where's he at? He's supposed to be here by now. Well, the next scene that we see, Ben's packing. He's packing his bags. He's ready to get the hell out of there. He's had enough. So he believes that Mahogany is not really into this, and he thinks this way because of the fact that she did not respond to any of his texts. So he's like, she didn't respond, so I'm pretty sure she's not interested. So he's like ready to get the hell out of there. Now, does he communicate this to Mahogany and say, look, Mahogany, whatever? No, he's just packing his bags. So Ben says that he texted Mahogany a full disclosure of his past relationships. She never responded. And so he said that while he was doing his morning devotions, the very first verse that popped up, I don't know, popped up on what? I guess it's phone. The very first Bible verse that popped up was the verse about there's no fear in love. And so Ben says in his confessional that Mahogany has a lot of fear. She has a fear of my true intentions. She has a fear of what her parents think. She has a fear of what her friends are going to think of her when she's with me. So he's like, Mahogany has a lot of fear. And so this verse about there's no fear in love, it really spoke to the very core of his being. So back to Mahogany. So she decides to text Ben. So she's like, I guess asking him, where you at? Are you going to be joining me for breakfast? And then, the parents asked her, well, does he even know that your family's here? And she said no. So she went and told him that, first, before she told him about her parents being there, she was asking him, where are you at? What's going on? And he says, well, I texted you a whole bunch of information the night before, and your silence spoke volumes to me. So he took her silence very, very seriously. And so then she tells him that her parents are there. And, so then she tells her parents, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. She tells her parents, oh, he's upset because he was texting me, his whole history of his relationships and I never responded. And so he's not going to come to breakfast or something like that. So the parents are like, okay, that's really rude of him. For him not to show up for breakfast. They completely overlooked the fact that she completely ghosted him when he was, pouring out his heart and soul to her and confessing to her, I guess, whatever part he took in his relationships failing. They overlooked that part and that she ignored him. They overlooked that. They're just like, well, it's really rude of him not to be here for breakfast. So, Mahogany tells us in her confessional that it was rude of him to not tell her that he wasn't coming for breakfast and to keep her waiting. Okay, girl, but you were rude to him when you failed to respond to his text messages. He sent you a 4-page letter, Aaliyah, and you didn't respond. So you were being rude to him as well. So what? And so Mahogany tells her parents, so then that's when she tells him that, my parents are here. And so then I guess she thought, she was like, checkmate. Well, my parents are here. But he was like, oh, okay, well, I would like to meet with them in private. And I guess this really took her off guard. But, Mahogany, she's not going to lose her cool. So she tells her parents, well, he wants to meet with y'all in private. And then the dad was like, girl, what does he want to tell us? Like, what's tea? What does he want to reveal to us in private? And so Mahogany's like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. And so then the dad was like, well, don't worry. If he says anything negative about you, I'm not going to put up with it. So the dad already knows the what's up. The dad is already prepared. He already knows. Okay, the parents know what Mahogany is all about. They may act like they're all innocent because they want their child to appear like just as innocent. But I have a feeling that Mahogany has not been through these shenanigans. Like, I have a feeling that this is not her first rodeo. Okay, so, and I know her parents must know something about what kind of daughter they have, because automatically the dad was like, well, whatever he's got to say about you, I'm not going to give it any weight. I'm not going to give it any weight at all. I'm going to completely shut it down if he says anything, which is fine. But what if he's saying something true? Like, what if he shows the parents the Photoshop pictures? What if he tells the parents, well, she told me ABCD and I come to find out it's actually X, Y, and Z? What if he just states the facts? He's going to completely ignore that and discredit the facts that Ben Hameen might have to tell them. So Mahogany tells in her confessional that by him wanting to speak with her parents in private, it just shows that he's more interested in what they think than what she thinks of him. Not necessarily, Mahogany. He just wants to have a conversation with your parents in private. Like, why are you so worried about that? What about that is making you so nervous? Like, really, that their stories are not going to match up? The Mahogany they know and the Mahogany he knows are going to be completely two different people? You're about to get busted, girl. Moving on. Jasmine and Gino. Okay, so they're all happy because the mom gave the blessings. But Jasmine has a lot of hesitation now. So it's the next day and she tells Gino that she wants her space, because she just received a message from an unknown account that her pictures will be posted all over the internet. And she's really upset about this. So she tells Gino about this. And the first thing he asked was, like, who's it from? And she was like, it's from some fake account with no followers. And she tells him, you know exactly who it's from. You know exactly who's behind this. It's your ex. And so Gino has like a really lackluster response. He's kind of like, well, that sucks. That sucks for you. And his attitude is what really frustrates her the most. Like, he doesn't really take any of this seriously. Like, he doesn't understand how serious this stuff is. And she says that she only wants him to take accountability and ownership for, like, her privacy being completely invaded. And like, to him, it's just kind of like he's just really nonchalant. I don't know if he's really like suffering inside, but it doesn't show. But he comes across as just kind of like, well, that must really suck for you that you're going through this, as if he had nothing to do with it. So he was like, I already told you that I was sorry. And, to her, sorry is nowhere near enough now that there's this threat looming over her head. And then Gino says in his confessional that if it's his ex, it's just empty threats, because what does she have to gain from this? Okay, let's put that to the side. Like, whatever the motivation might be for the ex, let's put that to the side. Your current girlfriend has a real fear of her private pictures being exposed all over the internet. So if it's serious for her, it needs to be serious for you. Regardless if the ex is really going to do it or not going to do it, it's a real fear that anybody would have. If someone sends them a message from some fake account and said, look, your pictures are about to be exposed all over the internet, or they're going to be emailed to all of your family, your friends, your colleagues. They're all going to get copies of these pictures to kind of see the kind of woman you are, or whatever the situation may be. Whether it's going to happen or not, her fear is real. And that's what you need to be more concerned with, Gino, and making her trying to alleviate as much of the fear as you possibly can as her boyfriend and potential fiance and potential husband. So don't just look at her and be like, oh, I don't know why you're taking this so seriously. She's not going to do anything. Wrong answer, dude. Wrong answer. So Jasmine says, well, I might get fired if these pictures are exposed. And then he's like, oh, don't worry about that. I'll take care of you. And so then Jasmine says, oh, so you're going to give me $3,000 a month every single month? Because that was my salary. And then Gino says, no, but you can get another job and I can help supplement your salary. And he goes, well, maybe this is going to lead to you getting a higher paying job. What? So this is what she needed to do to get a higher paying job? She needed to have her privacy invaded by a complete stranger that you used to date or that you used to be married to that might have a vendetta against her. That's what she needed to do to get a higher paying job. Oh, so that's what this was all about. It was just for her to help her get a higher paying job. So you're just trying to help her advance her professional career. Got you. And what about the humiliation of it all in the meantime? Like if these pictures are exposed and she does get fired, so between her getting fired and her getting this better paying job that you feel like she's going to be guaranteed to get, what about the humiliation that she suffers and the embarrassment that she suffers? What about that? So Jasmine says, well, to say that to me tells me that you have a problem. You have a real problem, which she does, which she knew about since day one. So I'm like, Gino, how can you be average looking and a jerk? Like, how can you have two struggles in one person? Because it'd be one thing if you're really good looking and you're a jerk, or if you were average looking, but you had like a bomb personality and you had a whole bunch of charisma and a whole bunch of charm about you. You know, you had like a certain magnetism about you, but you got neither. You don't have the looks and you don't have the personality. And on top of that, you're a jerk. Which leads me to Jasmine. What the hell do you see in Gino? And I'm getting sick and tired of asking that question. So we're moving on. So Gino is contemplating the magnitude of what he's done. And so now when he refers to the pictures, he refers to them as her nude pictures. When before, he was always arguing against her, saying that, oh, you weren't nude, you were covered up. Your breasts weren't exposed. Those were not nude pictures. But now he refers to them as her nude pictures. So Jasmine says that when she looks at him, she only feels resentment and probably disgust. Hopefully disgust too, Jasmine. And she tells him how this ordeal has taken such an emotional and mental toll on her and has completely changed her as a person. And then she comments on how on the first day that they met, she comments on how pretty she was. She's like, my nails were so pretty. My eyelashes were so pretty. And he looks at her and he's like, oh, you still look fine now. And she's like, don't give me that crap. And she says, well, now I just feel and look like crap. And so Gina was like, so what do you want to do? You want to get your eyelashes done? And I'm like, how can someone be so clueless? Like, how can he not be empathetic at all to what she's going through? And it was of no fault of her own. She was just trying to make her man happy, which is you, Gino. She was just trying to make you happy by sending you, some little flirty pictures. And you completely turn her whole life upside down by sending them to your ex. So Jasmine says that she's not a sugar baby. She's like, don't treat me like a sugar baby because I'm not a sugar baby. And then he denies that he's a sugar daddy. And so she says, you're not the man that I met. You're a lying sugar daddy. And Gina was like, no, I'm not. And Jasmine says, you have to demonstrate to me with your actions that you're not about just satisfying me with material things. Now, when she said material things, I was like, what material things has he tried to give you or has he tried to shower you with? Because I've seen nothing but a toothbrush, which who knows where the hell he got that, a pregnancy test, and a cheap ring, which you haven't seen yet, but still. That's all I've seen. Like, what material things has he showered you with? You had to beg him to pay for the vacation that y'all went on. So what material things has he showered you with? And so Gina says, well, that's not what I'm trying to do. Well, he goes, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to prove to you, how truly sorry I am. And then she says very coolly, very calmly, she's like, well, let me see your emails. And he's like, Say what now? And she's like, let me see your emails. And so he takes out his phone. I guess he's like, I don't know, doing the code thing to unlock his phone. And she's like, and don't you dare delete a damn thing. Let me see your emails. So he gives her the phone, and she's scrolling through, and then she comes across something that made her eyes get really wide. And I was like, here we go. But the only thing she came across was a file that said travels, because he says that he's very organized with his emails. And then when she clicked on that file, it showed pictures of him, or emails or something about him going on a trip in 2016 or something, with his ex, which was to Legoland. And she's like, you never told me about Legoland. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. And she goes, you only told me about going to Disneyland and Northern Michigan. You never told me about Legoland. And so he's like, I'm sorry. I said, I forgot. Do you remember everything you did 6 years ago? And she said, yes, I do. And he was like, he got mad. And so then he got up, he flipped the chair, and he walked away. And I was kind of like, it's okay if you forgot, and it was 6 years ago. Jasmine, don't make something out of nothing. And if that's the only thing that you found in his emails, then that's kind of pretty good. If you had to go back to 2014 and find something, then that, or 2016 or whatever, then that was pretty good. Okay, if that's all he did was go to some trip to Legoland way before he met you, girl, let that go. Look through them text messages. That's what you need to be looking through. Moving on to Usman and Angela. So Kim FaceTimes her friend and, brings her up to date with what's been going on. And she reveals to her friend that Zara is real. And the friend was like, what? And I was like, why are you so surprised, girl? Because you're the one, you and the other girl were the ones that told her, well, maybe Zara is a real person and not just a song. But why are you surprised now? So the friend said that, he made a video about Lisa, but that was, because Lisa was his ex-wife and there was like real feelings or in a real relationship there. So for him to make a video about Zara, that must mean that Zara was just as important to him as his ex-wife was. And this completely rubbed her the wrong way. And she was like, man, why did you even tell me that? She was like, that makes me feel even worse. So she says that she's lost complete confidence in herself. She says when she first arrived to Tanzania, she had a lot of confidence. She felt really good about herself. Now she's just completely deflated. And so she says in her confessional that he has to do something very romantic and very big to prove that he loves her. So she sends him a text wanting to meet with him by the pool. So as soon as she arrives at the pool, he's sitting on the chair and she arrives and he looks at her and he's like, oh, you look really cute today. But he didn't immediately get up and hug her and greet her. And even if she would have pushed him away because she's still really upset, I felt like he could have at least stood up. As a proper gentleman, he should have at least stood up when she showed up, but he didn't. So, and those are the little things that women look at that, really tell us whether or not you really care about this whole relationship. It's the little things. It's not always like the big grand things. Sometimes it's just the little things. So Usman says, oh, you're not going to give me a hug today? And she's like, no. Okay, fine. She doesn't want to hug, fine. But Usman, you still should have stood up and then at least attempted to hug her or shake her hand or just show some type of something when she showed up. So Kim says that the whole trip was really deceptive because, she felt like she was deceived into coming there because he's going to shoot an entire video about another woman. And she had no idea that this woman was his girlfriend because he completely lied to her about the meaning of the video and the meaning of the song. So, and also she was like, I thought we would have been more affectionate a lot earlier on during the trip instead of having to wait however many days, just to finally get close with each other. So she questions why he would even ask her to come when he was, doing this whole video for another girl. And she explains that all she went through, she goes, I guess she was trying to show him how she's putting more into this than he is. Because, she was like, give me your necklace, which I thought was really his own, like he bought for himself, but come to find out she bought it for him. So she's like, give me the necklace. So he takes off the necklace, he gives it to her, and she says, do you know what I went through for this necklace? And she talks about how she had to ship it had to be shipped internationally and custom made and had to pay extra fees and do all this stuff just for this one necklace. And she's like, what have you done for me? And he's like, nothing. He's like, nothing. And so she's like, wow, that says a lot. And so and he did show up empty-handed when he arrived to Zanzibar. I don't know, did he show up empty-handed or did he end up pulling some flowers out of the ground and gave those flowers to her? I don't know, but I think he showed up empty-handed when he first arrived. And I was like, he could have at least brought something really beautiful for her. Not necessarily expensive, but something very meaningful, like proper flowers, teddy bear, Even a couple of his Soldier Boy shirts. She would have loved that. Anything. But he showed up to Zanzibar when they first met completely empty handed. So Kim was like, well, yeah, well, that says a lot, that you've done nothing for me. And Usman says, well, I didn't force you to come here. And I was like, oh, wrong answer. No, 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 no. No, no one forced anyone to do anything. That's not what that's about. Oh, unless you're talking about her forcing you to sleep with her. But other than that, no one forced anyone to do anything. So that's not a good answer, Usman. Y'all both wanted to come meet each other. Of course, you had business to attend to, but according to what you told your assistant and your manager, you invited her to come to Zanzibar. You wanted her to come to Zanzibar because remember, the manager and the assistant thought that she just kind of pushed her way to this video shoot. Like she was just forcing her way there. But Usman told them, no, 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 no. She came because I invited her. So, of course, nobody forced anybody to be there. So I was like, what a chivalrous kind of guy he is. So then Kim says, well, for me to stay, you have to do something really big. And if you don't prove your love to me, then you won't get your necklace back. And she's like, Usman is like, this is funny. So when he said this is really funny, she got up, she took the glass and she threw water in his face, completely baptized him. So the next scene is Kim in her confessional. She says, I've never thrown a drink at anybody, but when he said that's funny, that really triggered me. So Usman in his confessional, he says that women in his country are 100% submissive. And so her acting like this is completely unheard of and very disrespectful to him. So he follows her to her room because she's like, I'm out of here. She goes back to her room and he's right behind her. So they're in the room and they're arguing back and forth. They're arguing about what his true intentions and his true feelings are for her. She goes, I know that you love me, but I know that you're not in love with me. And I just need you to admit that, come clean. You're not in love with me. And so he's like, you know what? He tells her, well, I can't do any more than what I've already done for you. And so she threatens to leave. And he's like, okay, peace out, safe flights. And he's out of there. He's gone. Exit stage left. Usman is out of here. Usman has left the building. And so Kim says in her confessional, well, I lost. And I was like, no, sweetheart, you won. You won big time. But she's like, you know what? I lost. She goes, it's going to be very hard for me to get over him because he's been such a big part of my life for the past year. So she's like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get on, without him. But she says she can't leave the island until, she can't leave Tanzania until she gets this resolved somehow, some way. Now, I'm pretty sure Usman is going to do something big and grand for her because he needs to keep that money train going. Choo choo, he needs to keep that money train going. So he's not going to let her go that easily. He's going to, scrape together some coins and do something big for her. And it's probably not going to even be that big, but to her, it's going to say a lot. Even if it's like, a couple of bouquets of flowers or some cheap jewelry or something, or even like writing a quick little song for her. That's going to mean a lot to someone like Kim. And I'm pretty sure he's going to do something to keep her around. Number one, to stay on the show. Number two, he still wants the gifts and the money and all the stuff that she's been doing for him for the past year. Moving on to Mike and Ximena. So Mike tells her that he's going to give her space because they just had the conversation with the translator, which is Mike's, really good friend. And the translator completely grilled Ximena about her being a gold digger, so on and so forth. So Ximena kept on saying that I just need space. I need space. So Mike tells her, okay, fine, I'll give you your space, but hopefully we can remain friends. So then she looks at him and she's like, are you ending our relationship? And Ximena's like, well, do you want this to be finished? Of course, he has no control. He has no control. Mike, if you were really running things the way you think you're running things, you would have been like, yeah, I'm out of here. But he's like, well, do you want it to end? And so Ximena says that she just needs some space. So Mike asks, well, do you want space as in Mike in Colombia kind of space? Or do you want your space like in Mike back in the US kind of space? And so Ximena says, no, you can stay and we can try to work things out. So Ximena says in her confession that in her past relationships that they didn't last long because she's always wanted her own personal space. And she just hopes that Mike can learn to give her that space. So they end up hugging it out because they've agreed that he's going to stay, but he's going to have to give her space. So and when they hugged, you can tell that Mike really wanted to say "te amo," and he was like really biting his tongue to not say those words because that gets on her damn nerves. So they're walking towards home, and as they're walking towards home, the friend calls Mike and tells him to get the hell out of Dodge. The friend tells Mike she doesn't like you, she's disgusted by you, she doesn't want to be with you, you need to come home right away. So Mike says, well, they're going to work things out. And the friend is like, no, 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 Mike, you don't understand. You don't get it. The girl is just using you for your money. She does not like you. You need to come home. So while the friend is telling him this, because the friend is on FaceTime or speakerphone, Ximena can hear all of this. So the friend says, you don't deserve this, Mike. So Ximena questions the friend, why are you so involved in our personal relationship? And the friend tells her, well, it wouldn't be like this if we wouldn't be in this situation if you would have treated him better. You take money from him and you don't even like him. And so Ximena says, well, she's basically like asking Mike, oh, so is that how it is? Is that how it is or not or no? And so Mike says that, well, he says he feels like crap because, well, I don't know what's going on here, but I do feel like crap. And so Ximena then says, well, if you feel like crap, then go home. Go home then. And so Mike says, well, he sits down because he needs time to think. And so he sits down and he's got his head in his hands and he's just like contemplating, the weight of the world is like on his shoulders. He doesn't know what the hell to do because he's so turned around between what the friend is saying, between what Ximena is saying, and between what he's really feeling in his heart. So Jimena's waiting for him to make a move, do something, say something. So she's like, ¿qué paso? And so then Mike says, you know what? I think I'm going to get a hotel. I think it's best for me just to get a hotel. So Ximena taunts him. She's like, oh, okay, so you're going to do whatever your little friend tells you, huh? You're not man enough to do your own thing, to make your own decisions. You're going to listen to what your little friend told you. So then Mike says, well, whatever. It doesn't change how I feel inside. So he's confused, right? So he thinks about it, I guess, and he's like, you know what? Okay. He can't resist Ximena. He's like, okay, I'll stay another week. So I think what made him stay was the fact that she was so flippant about him going back to the United States. She was like, okay, fine. If you're unhappy, if you feel like crap, go back home. So I think if she would have been more like, oh, Mike, please stay or something like that, maybe he still would have gone to the hotel, but I doubt it. But because she was just like, okay, fine, do whatever you want to do. He felt like he needed to really try to hang on to her. So she's happy because she says that she's going to change. She's happy because he's decided to stay. So at least for a week, she probably doesn't have to worry about using her own money because Mike is going to be there to take care of her at least for that week. And so she's happy now. And so she gives him a hug and she says, you know what? I'll change. I'll be better. So then, y'all, he begs. He literally begs to sleep with her. And Mike is like, I guess, so worried because she's so hot and cold and, she can change her mind at the drop of a dime. He always has to ask her like what she plans to do or what's really going to happen next in the relationship because he doesn't know because she's so like all over the place, toying with his affections. So he was like, are we going to sleep together tonight, please? And I was like, Mike, oh my God. Everything that everyone has been telling you from the beginning, your dad, your grandfather, your friends, nothing sticks to his brain. The only thing he can see and hear is Ximena. He is so drunk in love with this girl that he's been reduced to begging her to sleep with him. Begging her. So she says, she relents. She says, as long as he doesn't stare at her. Okay. She tries to be real funny about it. And so, they kiss, besos, everything is fine. So Mike says in his confessional that he's happy that Ximena is willing to work on their relationship. Okay. Moving on. So that night he got lucky. He got what he wanted. He got him some Ximena. He got him a piece of Ximena. And Mike said that she was like a tiger. And Ximena says that you were like an owl, but a good one. Whatever the hell that means. Because he stares at her so much. And I'm like, okay, aren't y'all supposed to be looking at each other when y'all are, doing the deal? Like, shouldn't he be, or what do you want him to stare at? The wall? Like, shouldn't he needs to be staring at you. So, Ximena says that they, they reconnected more. And so later on that night, they decided to have a date night. It seems like things are looking good. They hooked up. Everybody was satisfied, it seems like, and happy about that. He's going to stay a little bit longer. They're going to try to work on some stuff. He understands that she wants her space. And so things are looking on the up and up. So they have a date night and they go out to eat. And the first thing Mike says when they sit down is, how are things going so far? It's like, Mike, don't talk about the relationship. Just enjoy the moment. Let things unfold as they're going to unfold naturally. Stop analyzing every little thing. Yes, he needs to analyze everything, but analyze it internally. Don't always don't always ask her, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about this? How are you feeling about that? What are we going to do now? What are we going to do next? So the first thing he says to her when they sit down is, how are things going? And, she's like, oh, they're normal. That's her little safe answer. They're normal. She really wants to say, not so great or just the same as before. But she's like, okay, they're normal. So Mike wants to talk about the wedding. And he says he wants a very simple wedding, friends, family, nothing too big. And Ximena says, well, don't bring your friend Nelsie. I don't want her at the wedding, which is the friend that was translating and, grilling her so hard. And so, Mike was like, well, I only wanted to use her to translate. But Mike, you should have known, her being your really good friend and, her husband being your really good friend, you should have known that it was going to be more than just translating. They could not wait. They could not wait to get to Ximena and tear her to shreds about her intentions with Mike. So it was an unfair situation for her. It wasn't about just translating. You knew that they were going to grill her. You knew that they were going to ask her the questions that you are too scared to ask her. It wasn't about just because if it really was about just translating, you would have hired a translator. So moving on. So Mike says he's ready to go home and he wants to get some more Nikki. And so Ximena's like, no, we're not going to do that because, my kids, they're used to sleeping with me and they're going to be in the bed with me because they don't want to sleep alone. Now I'm like, okay, that's a good game, Ximena, but it's not true because your kids have their own room. And there was no issue with them sleeping apart from you when he came to Colombia that first time. Okay. There was no issue with putting them in their own room then. So miss us with all of that. My kids have to sleep in the bed with me stuff. So, she's like, we're not going to do anything until we get married. No more adult time until we get married. And so, Mike is like, well, okay, that's fine, but we can still sneak off and do our thing when the kids fall asleep. And Ximena gives them a very hard no. She's like, no, nothing. Absolutely nothing until we get married. And so Mike says in his confessional that every time he thinks that they're moving forward, they move like 5 steps back. And he questions whether or not he should have just left when his friend told him to. That's what we all question, Mike. That's what the whole world wants to know. Like, why didn't you just leave when the friend told you, a third party told you she's disgusted by you? She doesn't love you. She even told you herself, I'm not in love with you. So the next episode, when we saw the previews, we see Mike, because I think, Ximena says something really flippant to him. Like, okay, whatever, I don't know what she said, but she said something like, whatever's going on between us, you're still paying my rent though, right? You're still paying my rent. And then he gets upset and he just starts running down the street like a madman. Hopefully he was running to go find his dignity and his manhood and his self-respect after begging this woman to sleep with him. Like, Mike, how low can you go? Like, how much more degradation can you take on national or international television? Like, how much more can you possibly take, Mike? Anyways, that's my review. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Please don't forget to like or dislike, comment, and subscribe. And I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.